What's going on, Raider Nation? It's your boy Sanjit back at it with another video. We are gonna really talk about the Raiders today, man. It's really unfortunate what just happened today, man. Let's talk about it, man. Let's break it down. Let's get into it. I want to answer all of you guys' questions. Today's game was really disappointing because the Bengals aren't that good, but we've kind of seen this happen the past couple of weeks, right? The Giants aren't that good. Kansas City's okay, but their defense is not that good. And our offense is continuing to struggle. The offense isn't able to get it done. Now, you guys see the title in the video. We're really going to talk about Derek Carr, man. We're really going to get into it. We're really going to discuss what the issues are with the Raiders. I don't 100% put everything on Derek Carr, but a big part of it is on Derek Carr. A big part of it will always go on your quarterback no matter what. You could be sacked 50 times a season. Your wide receivers may not have the best separation. At the end of the day, none of that matters because the quarterback is the most important position in the entire league. I want you guys to think about this for a second. The Arizona Cardinals had a quarterback named Josh Rosen, and they moved on for him a year after they took him in the top 10 in the draft, and they moved on and got a guy in Kyler Murray. The Philadelphia Eagles had a guy in Carson Wentz, who I believe they took with the first overall pick in the draft, and they moved on from him. The Tennessee Titans had Marcus Mariota, who they took in the first round, a top 5 pick, and they moved on from him. And the Raiders are sticking on Derek Carr, a guy that hasn't really made it to the playoffs and had a ton of success in the playoffs. Obviously, he got hurt the one year that our team did make it into the playoffs. But at what point is keeping Derek Carr around too long considered too long, right? Like, at what point are the Raiders going to start a fresh rebuild? And I'm not saying Derek Carr's a terrible quarterback, but at a certain point, you have to rebuild everything. You got to start from scratch. And I don't know if the Raiders need to start from scratch necessarily, but what they have right now isn't getting it done. Rich Bisaccia, Craig Olsen, those guys got to go, man. And I'm not even talking about just them. I think the entire coaching staff will have to be turned over because I don't know how many coaches want to come in and have a previous regime's coaching staff. I don't know who's going to want to come in and say, yeah, I'm cool with Gus Bradley or Tom Cable or whoever else it may be. At a certain point, a coach is going to want to come in and say, I'm going to rebuild. Like, I don't want this quarterback. I don't want this left guard. I don't want this center. I don't want these other coaches, right? And they're going to want to do things their own way. And that may also mean moving on from Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock has supposedly 51% control. 51% means he can make the decisions. He makes every single decision. And if you think scoring 13, 14, and 16 points the past 3 weeks is good enough, you got to go, man. And again, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses. The Raiders got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. You're still 5-5. The season is not technically over. You still have 7 more games. You can still finish the season 10 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins. Like, you started 5-2, right? This team is still pretty much the same team. You lost the coach and you lost the wide receiver. Wide receiver is not even that important of a position. It's probably one of the least important positions on offense. Like, let's just be honest, right? Offensive line has stepped up. If a quarterback's good enough, they can make wide receivers look better. The Colts scored 40 plus points today. I can't name a wide receiver on that offense, right? The Raiders got to get it together, man. If you guys have questions, super chats are always the best way to go, as I will always see them because they pop up on the screen. I will try to answer other questions outside of super chats as well. I see a ton of questions. Today's a crazy day. First and foremost, if you guys don't know, I officially had my first baby just a couple days ago. So I'm on like 9 hours of sleep the past 3 days. So I'm a little cranky today, man. And watching this Raiders game made me a little bit more crankier. I don't know what the Raiders are thinking, man. But as Larry Millette says, the first super chat of the day, huge shout out to you. Carr audibles thinking he is Peyton Manning, but he's more like Andy Dalton. I don't know how you can't take a hard look at starting Mariota for a spark on Thursday. And here's the thing, man. Like, does it make sense to start Marcus Mariota on a short week? Like, I feel like the Raiders should have made the adjustment at halftime. Like, we had 6 points in the first half against the Cincinnati Bengals. Why would you not make that adjustment at halftime? And this is why I tweeted it out. I said the Raiders need to look and really consider potentially moving on from the coaching staff for the sole reason they're not willing to make those adjustments. Like, you're sticking out with you're sending out the same exact offense that's struggling. Like, we're not scoring points, right? I believe we had like 130 yards in the first half. Like, that's not acceptable. Derek Carr at one point had 80 yards, right? Right before that long touchdown drive, I think 3 plays, 75 yards. Before that, he had 80 yards. We also finished, I believe, 1 of 7 on third downs. 1 of 7 on third downs. The efficiency is not there, man. 1 of 7 today. I believe we were 1 of 9 last week, or 3 of 9 or something like that. We picked up like 5 first downs the past 3 games on third downs. That's not acceptable, man. Omar says we need to blow up everything. I don't know if that's necessarily what the Raiders have to do, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Do the Raiders need to blow up everything, new quarterback, new system, new GM, or should they just retool what they already have? And maybe that's not even getting a new quarterback. Maybe you stick it out with Derek Carr and just get him some more weapons. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I see a lot of you guys comments saying congratulations. I really appreciate it, man. It's a huge life change. It's completely different. You know, babies are honestly the best thing in this world, and I'm super excited. It's definitely going to be a huge change, huge shift in my life. You know, again, I'm going to continue to produce content, right? That's obviously, you know, I consider this work for myself to come out and make a video every single day. I will always take, you know, that 1 to 3 hours, whatever it takes. So I will continue to definitely doing that. I appreciate every single one of you guys that are saying congratulations. There's a lot of you guys out there that are saying that. Let's get into this, man. The Bengals and Raiders game. I don't think the Raiders were that bad on the defensive side of the ball. I know the final score says the Bengals scored 32 points, but really, did they score 32 points? I feel like at the point where the game ended, they had 22 points. I believe the score was 13-22. There was still like, you know, 5-6 minutes left, and then obviously Derek Carr throws the interception, and then Joe Mixon has I believe like a 20-yard run, which ends up going for a touchdown. But the Raiders are still kind of struggling to stop the run. And I don't think it was that bad today. Like, I felt like the run defense was so much better. I know the final statistics might not support that, but Joe Mixon was averaging like 3.7 yards per attempt, minus his 1 long touchdown at the end of the game. So it wasn't like Mixon was having, and he was having a good game, right? Like, he had like 28 carries, 100 yards already at that point. But it wasn't like he was getting 10, 15, 20 yards. Like, he had a lot of carries in which the Raiders had negative yards, right? Like, I believe the Raiders had more negative plays produced than did the Bengals. I think the Bengals had like 2 all game, and the Raiders had 11 negative plays, which is huge, right? I think that's part of what could shift the entire the entire game. 805 Hunter says Carr is not man enough to be our quarterback. I'm all for a full rebuild. Congratulations on the baby. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You know, I've had issues with Derek Carr going back 3 or 4 seasons at this point. And at certain points, he looks fantastic. He looks like a great quarterback. But then it always kind of goes back to that same issues that we see, right? It's happy feet, checking the ball down, you know, not seeing the pressure correctly, not reading the field correctly. Right now, Derek Carr feels pressure, right? And I'm not talking about from the defensive line, the linebackers. He feels the pressure within Raider Nation. Us as fans, believe it or not, have a big push in what the Raiders are going to do. When we start saying things like the system needs to change, something needs to change, these guys listen, man. They know, and they're not that dumb either, right? They get it. At the end of the day, when change needs to happen, it needs to happen. And the Raiders are probably at the point where change, it's coming, man. Congrats. Running backs looked bad. You know, it's crazy because our running backs averaged, Josh Jacobs averaged 4.1 yards per attempt, and Kenyon Drake averaged 4.6. Now, Josh Jacobs did have a long of 18 yards, which means he probably averaged like 2.5 on every single one of his carries outside of that. But we're just not able to sustain drives. And, you know, what ends up happening when you can't sustain drives is we're not going to be able to run the football. 14 carries for our 2 running backs. 14. I guess Peyton Barber's a running back as well. So 15 carries for the running backs. That's not enough carries, man. Like, Derek Carr threw the ball 27 times and only running the ball 15 times. I think that needs to shift a little bit. But at the same time, Derek Carr has to be able to produce and get those third downs, right? Like, 1 of 7 on third downs, it's not acceptable. You don't win football being 1 of 7 on third downs. Now I see some people also supporting Carr, saying he isn't the problem. Some people are saying he is the issue. Again, Derek Carr is Derek Carr, right? He needs things to go well for him. You can almost say he needs things to go perfect for him. But either way, you look at the Cardinals moving on from Josh Rosen, the Eagles moving on from Carson Wentz, and the Titans moving on from Marcus Mariota. All those quarterbacks were basically gone within year 5 or 6, right? Of them being within those teams. The Raiders have had Derek Carr for 8 years now. I'm not sure what they're going to continue doing. And I do understand that, at a certain point, um, it was also John Gruden that kind of came in, right? 4 of Derek Carr's 8 years are basically because of John Gruden kind of wanted to keep him around. Another coaching staff may not have, right? But we don't have John Gruden anymore. This is now Rich Bisaccia's team. The Raiders can absolutely consider doing something else. Bisaccia can make the move. Mike Mayock can make the move. And let's be honest, if Bisaccia wants to keep his job, he has to do something. Like, it's not working what the Raiders are doing right now. Kakaka Raider, and I hope I said your name correctly. Thank you for the super chat. Congrats on your baby. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Again, I see a lot of your guys' questions. A lot of people are super disappointed with the Raiders and their lack of effort on the offensive side of the ball. If the Raiders are going to get successful, what is it that they have to do, right? In my opinion, they need to sustain drives. I think that's the biggest issue for the Raiders. When you look at the time of possession, you look at some of those statistics that really tell you how the game's outcome kind of was. The Bengals had the ball for 37 minutes. The Raiders had the ball for 22 minutes. That's going to shift the game. If one team has the ball for longer, they're calling more plays. The opposing defense is going to be more tired. The Bengals were pretty fresh, and that too, the Raiders forced some turnovers. I believe it was the second drive of the game for the Bengals, or it may have been the first drive. The Raiders forced a fumble, right? We get a sack. I believe it was the first drive. We get a sack on the quarterback. Yannick Ngakoue punches the ball out. And what do? We don't score a touchdown. We had the ball at, the 15-yard line. We don't score a touchdown. Instead, we settle for a field goal. Those type of drives, those type of events to happen in the game are game changer, because the Raiders had basically won the turnover battle up until the final 2 drives, right? Derek Carr throws an interception, and then Derek Carr fumbles. But before those final couple of drives, and at that point the game was over, the Raiders had won the turnover battle. But it's really the fact that the Raiders are kicking field goals that's really hindering their offense. It's really stopping what we're able to do and what we're not able to do. The Raiders got to get something done, man. Jesus said, do you think it's time to rebuild our offense again with new coaches and players after this season? Also, congrats on your baby. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's such a tough question, right? Because a new coaching staff is going to want to do their things their own ways, right? The Arizona Cardinals are the perfect example. The previous regime drafted Josh Rosen. The new regime comes in and they get rid of him. If the Raiders hire a competent coach, I'm going to assume they're likely going to want to rebuild without Derek Carr. And the reason why I say that is because it's expensive to keep quarterbacks around, veteran quarterbacks. So unless you have a top 5 to 8 veteran quarterback, you don't want to get stuck with a guy like Phillip Rivers, a guy that's going to want $35, $40 million, but he's never able to get you over the hump. You don't want to get stuck with a quarterback like Big Ben. And I know Big Ben has won a Super Bowl, but you don't want to get stuck with those guys that really need everything around them to go right. You don't want that. You want those quarterbacks that are top tier, that will, even when things aren't there, make things happen. And I know some people might say the Raiders offense isn't that good and we're not putting Derek Carr in position to win. And I don't agree with that. I think Derek Carr isn't doing enough to sustain drives. And again, I look at some of the plays. There was a play in which the Cincinnati Bengals line guys up in the A gaps, and then they drop back into coverage, and Derek Carr checks the ball down to Josh Jacobs because he thought the pressure was coming. And Josh Jacobs is tackled. I believe that was the first drive of the game for the Raiders after the fumble, right? After Yannick Ngakoue forces the fumble. I believe that was that drive. But Derek Carr has to do more. We got to score. We got to sustain drives. It almost seems like to me, I don't know if it's he doesn't trust his offensive line, but it seems like to me Derek Carr isn't doing what he once did, right? Like, you look back at 2016 and he would line up and just throw the ball, no hesitation. But more than that, he would process things correctly. He would read the defense correctly. He's not doing that anymore. He's throwing interceptions that we didn't see him make in the past. Like, he threw an interception today. I believe he threw 2 interceptions against the Chiefs, and I believe he threw an interception against the Giants. He's throwing interceptions that we typically don't see of him. So do the Raiders need to rebuild our offense? I don't know. I think we still have some good pieces to the offense. I think they need to develop a little bit more. When you look at our left guard, John Simpson, who was he benched today? I didn't see him get hurt. And again, I may have missed it, but I believe he got benched because I believe he came in and he played right tackle a couple plays later. And I believe the announcer said it was Brandon Parker that whiffed on a block. It was a run by Josh Jacobs. But I believe that was John Simpson. They moved him in as the 6th offensive lineman. And I may be wrong. I got to go back and rewatch the video. Good Morning said, an elite quarterback would love our roster. DC does not have a shortage of weapons. And I agree with you 100%. DC does not have a shortage of weapons. Derek Carr, Foster Moreau, Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake. Those are good weapons. Those are guys that can make plays in space. But it's up to Derek Carr, especially on certain downs, right? Especially on certain situations. 3rd and 4, you got to throw the ball further than 4 yards. You can't settle for 3 yards, a check down, and then now it's 4th and 1 when we're punting the ball. You can't settle for that. You got to pick up first downs. You have to convert. But at the same time, I want to know what you guys think about this for a second. Does it make sense for the Raiders to move on from Derek Carr, or not move on, right? Let's not use the term move on. Does it make sense to bench Derek Carr for one game to see what Marcus Mariota has? And I kind of mentioned this previously in last week's videos. I think it may make sense. Now, also considering the fact that it's a short week, does that change your mind? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about that. Anthony said Drake and Josh 60 yards, Mixon 120 yards. And here's the thing, right? Here's the difference. Joe Mixon averaged 4.1 yards, and Josh Jacobs averaged 4.1 yards. Kenyon Drake averaged 4.6 yards, which means that Josh Jacobs tied Joe Mixon in terms of yards per attempt. So he was basically doing the same thing Joe Mixon was doing, as well as Kenyon Drake actually outproduced both of those guys. The difference was that the Raiders didn't sustain drives. We weren't getting enough first downs. On 3rd downs, we were 1 of 7. If you can't convert a 3rd down, you're not going to win, and you're not going to be able to sustain those drives. You got to be 50% or higher, because what happens when you sustain a drive is you allow Josh Jacobs to get 7 more carries throughout the course of a game, and Kenyon Drake to get 4 more carries throughout the course of a game. And, you can blame the offensive line, you can blame the running backs, you can blame Derek Carr. It all kind of goes hand to hand, right? Everybody has to play better. But it does start with Derek Carr, right? It absolutely does. Quarterback's the most important position. They get paid the big bucks, honestly, for a reason. That's what it really comes down to. A PBS left $2 super chat without a question. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Brian Live, thank you for the super chat. Left $10 super chat. I'm sorry, Byron. If you guys are not subscribed to Byron's channel, go check him out. Byron Live 95. Check out his YouTube channel. Raiders content creator, also does a great job. Go check his channel out. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I hope I didn't miss any of the super chats. The comments are going kind of quickly. Joseph Tripp said Bosa has twice as many sacks as Max Crosby. I'm assuming you're talking about Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa. I'm not sure which Bosa you're talking about. And again, I do think sacks are kind of overrated. Max Crosby's had a fantastic season this year, and sacks aren't necessarily overrated, right? They're negative plays. You take a quarterback down, and a sack is a loss of 4, 5, 6 yards, and now it's 2nd and 16 as opposed to a hit is 2nd and 10, right? So it's not necessarily overrated, but it's not the entire picture. Max Crosby's having a great year, but I would argue that Yannick Ngakoue is having an even better year, right? And I don't know if it's like, just the past couple of games, Yannick Ngakoue has been on fire, man, forcing fumbles, getting sacks, right? He had 2 sacks today. I know the second one didn't count because Quentin Jefferson was offsides, but he's giving it to that left tackle, man. So a big shout out to Yannick Ngakoue, having a great season. I see a lot of you guys saying, yes, that the Raiders need to absolutely let Marcus Mariota take over. And I'm not opposed to that at all. And if you guys can hit that thumbs up button really quickly, I would really appreciate it. There's about 300 of you guys here. It really does mean a ton. But yeah, the Raiders need to really consider putting Marcus Mariota in. I see all of what you guys are saying. And the reason why is because right now Derek Carr's not getting it done. You got to score on the offense side of the ball, and we're not scoring. If you can't score on the offense side of the ball, then you have to move on, or at least bench a guy for 1 year. Think about this. Last year, the Raiders brought in Marcus Mariota, right? Last year, we brought him in. And there are a lot of fans saying the Raiders need to start Marcus Mariota. You don't bring him in for no reason. And that lit a fire under Derek Carr. Derek Carr was pumped up last year. He wanted to ball out last year. He wanted to prove all the haters wrong last year. And he did. He had a great year last year. But I think he got a little too comfortable this year. And it seems like he's really fallen off. And this happens every year at this point, pretty much, right? Last year, Derek Carr started off fire the first 3 or 4 games. Teams didn't have the film. Same thing this year. He started off on fire, MVP candidate, according to a lot of people. But these past 3 or 4 games, he's really fallen off. And I should say past 3 games, because against the Eagles, he was a top-tier quarterback. But he's really fell off. And you can argue that the Giants have a pretty good defense, right? From a player perspective, as does the team today, right? The Bengals defense isn't that bad from a player perspective. So you could argue that better defenses kind of give Carr some fits. The Bears, top tier defense. The Chargers, much better in terms of scheme. And Derek Carr struggled against those type of defenses. Cruz said, "Congrats! I am so pissed. I bought Raider tickets this year for a family of 4, flight, hotel, and don't want to go to the game. DC has no heart. Effing pissed." I hear you, man. It's really unfortunate. One of the things that I have been thinking about when I put so much time, I put so much effort into the Raiders, and what ends up happening every year this happens, I'm very tough on Derek Carr. I don't give him a pass, and I never will. That will never happen. But this year, I really told myself that I'm really going to try to stick with DC this entire year. I don't want negativity. I want to really support the guy. But it's so difficult when you're scoring 13 points, 14 points, and 16 points. You don't win in the NFL scoring that many points. It may happen every once in a while, but it doesn't happen if you do that 3 times back to back to back. At a certain point, you got to score 30 plus points. At a certain point, an offense has to put up 40 points. You got to show that you're a top tier offense. The Philadelphia Eagles just put up 40 points today. 40 freaking points from the Philadelphia Eagles. I saw that team play against the Raiders. That was one of the worst offenses I had seen. And they're putting up 40 points. And the Raiders are over here and they can't even score 20 points. They haven't in the past 3 weeks. What does that tell you about the Raiders offense, right? And again, is it Derek? Is it Greg Olsen? I do think Greg Olsen is an issue as well. Greg Olsen's, in my opinion, a terrible offense coordinator. Some people were very excited when John Gruden was canned, saying that our offense is about to take the next step. We're about to, leap upwards. And after the first 2 games, people were excited, right? We blew out the Broncos, we blew out the Eagles, and people were excited. Oh, John Gruden's an issue. John Gruden was this, he's that. Derek Carr's better. And I was saying, man, pump the brakes a little bit and let's see what happens when people have the tape of Greg Olsen's offense. And we haven't scored 20 points since, right? And this team is really struggling. Cruz, I don't know which game you got the tickets for if you have season tickets, but that is unfortunate that you made that investment. I would still go, man. It's still a very, very, very good thing to do. It's still a memory that you and your family will have. So I hope you do enjoy that if you do go. Rick Glenn said, "Why are we always punting on 4th and 1/3 yards away?" That's coaching, man. I said this on Twitter that if the coaches can't get it right, they got to go. And those decisions, 4th and 1, 4th and 3, is that what happens when you have a special teams coach that you decide you want to punt the ball away? When your coaches special teams, does he say, "Hey, let's punt the ball away on 4th and 1"? Because the Raiders need to go for it on 4th and 1 and 4th and 3. Or at least if they're struggling, let's try to get a spark. All it takes is a spark. How many times did the Raiders defense stop the Bengals? How many times over and over and over again did we stop the Bengals? The Cincinnati Bengals had 13 points going into halftime. 13 points going into the 4th quarter. 13 points going into the 4th quarter. And the Raiders are still down. If you can't be up going into the 4th quarter when another team has 13 points, I don't know what to tell you, man. You're clearly not doing something correctly. And again, I would have loved for the Raiders to potentially have went for it a couple of times on those fourth and short situations. If the Raiders can't go for it, if Greg Olson's not able to get the Raiders in position to convert, maybe you pass the play calling duties off to Tom Cable. Maybe Tom Cable takes over and he does a better job, and maybe he's able to sustain some drives and make some things happen. The Raiders aren't getting it done, man. And, a lot of this is going to fall on Derek Carr. This comment right here comes from Orbit. He says, why is Carr throwing for 4 yards with 40 seconds and 2 timeouts left in the first half? Teams have figured it out. If you stay back on Derek Carr, he won't take the shots deep. He's going to take the 4 yards. The thing is that type of offensive style does not work. And it's different when you throw your running back the ball as a check down to the right for 4 yards versus if they're running, maybe it's a crossing pattern or maybe they're running an angle route and you hit them on that and they're running in stride and maybe they pick up 11 yards instead of 4 yards because those 4-yard throws don't work, right? And if we're not going to be willing to take those shots downfield, why do we have guys like Darren Waller and Deshaun Jackson? Why do we have these guys if we're not going to take those shots deep? And I'll be the first to tell you guys, I've watched every single play the past 3 weeks on film, the all 22 tape, and I see the same thing. Guys are running deep. It's not up to the guys that are running deep to force Derek Carr to throw the ball. It's up to Derek Carr to throw the ball. And here's the thing. If the Raiders do decide to go with Marcus Mariota against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, I think it could benefit the Raiders because there's no tape on Marcus. The Cowboys would have a short week to also prepare for Marcus. They may not be able to do that. And, there were rumors, I think, this past week that the Raiders had Marcus Mariota take half of the first string reps. I don't know how true that was. I believe I saw somewhere that Adam Schefter might have said that on like the NFL Network or ESPN's on one of those shows. But I don't know how true it was. Either way, man, you got to do something. Nosta Nike said DC got hit in the leg on the run and fumbled, laughing my ass off. I know he did get hit in the legs. I'll be honest, though. I don't know if the ball was punched out or what happened. It was garbage time, so it doesn't really matter. It does kind of suck that the Raiders, give up points in garbage time because it makes our defense look worse. The Chiefs scored 32 on us, but they ended up with 41. Today, the Bengals realistically had 22 points, but they ended up with 32 because of garbage time points, right? And it's not necessarily that the defense is allowing these long drives. They're turnovers, right? Derek Carr throws an interception, and now the Bengals have the ball at the 30-yard line. Or it's he throws an interception against the Chiefs or turns the ball over against the Chiefs, and now they have a short field, right? Regardless, on that play specifically, I believe the guy may have punched it out. I'll have to rewatch it. D the Sun said, congrats on the baby. It's not a good look for Carr. He knows there's potential huge payday and performs like this, shaking my head. And that's the thing, right? I actually, and stick with me here when I break this story down for you guys. I actually saw someone recently tell me that Derek Carr doesn't want to be with the Raiders, and that's why he's on purpose not playing well. And I couldn't disagree with that more. And I apologize if any of the super chats got missed. They're going by pretty quickly here. But before we move on and before I get into this question, hit that thumbs up button, man. I really, really appreciate it. There's over 400 of you guys already here. But it doesn't look good for Derek Carr right now, right? Like, he is potentially going to get paid a ton, right? Like, he could be potentially making $40 million. If Derek Carr got the Raiders into the playoffs this year, if he won 10, 11, 12 games, if he had an MVP caliber season, he's getting $40 million. And if he waits a year and has a second MVP caliber year, he's going to be the highest paid quarterback. He'd be getting $55 million in 2 years. That's not going to happen. Like, I don't know if the Raiders are going to even see Derek Carr in the silver and black in 2 years. Like, the Raiders at this point are terrible on offense, and they need to get it together. Again, it comes down to the fact that the Raiders on the offense side of the ball have to come together. We're not converting those we're not converting those first downs on third downs. Even times when it's like 2nd and 5, we get tackled and we lose 2 yards. Right? I believe there was a 2nd and 7, and Josh Jacobs loses 5 yards on a run to the right. I know the offensive lineman lost, but go down, man, or fall forward. Lose 1 yard instead of 5 yards, right? Those type of things are killer for the Raiders. A Blast, $5. Thank you for the super chat. Said Carr definitely looks over it to me. Um, I don't know, man, because if Derek Carr is over the Raiders specifically, and if he's over this season specifically, find him a spot on the bench, man, and let Marcus Mariota go out there and show that if you guys don't want Derek Carr, I'll be your guys' quarterback. I'll be your quarterback going forward. And I don't know if Marcus Mariota is the answer necessarily. I think the Raiders are very hesitant with rolling forward with Marcus Mariota. If the Raiders do put in Marcus Mariota at this point, if they do decide that we're going to go ahead and bench Derek, they also understand that Derek's not going to come back. I know Derek Carr said he would rather retire than play somewhere else, or he'd rather retire than not be with the Raiders. Literally just said that a couple months back. I don't agree with that. I don't think Derek Carr would rather retire than make 30, 40, $50 million potentially, and potentially go in a Super Bowl, right? That's every player's dream, is to go and win a Super Bowl. But I do still think that the Raiders should absolutely consider rolling with Marcus Mariota. I don't know if this statistic is true, but I just saw the super chat, or I'm sorry, the comment. Carr has 69 fumbles in 120 games. I don't know if that's true, but that's pretty crazy, man, if that is true. Body language in the press conference for Carr was terrible, as bad it's ever been. You know, I haven't watched the press conferences, and here's one of the things, right? I get live right away, as opposed to watching the pressers. And I almost feel like going forward, I may watch the pressers first, because I saw Derek Carr's body language on the sideline after a couple of plays as he was walking off the field. And that body language is not it, man. It wasn't good. It didn't look good. And I just don't know what the Raiders need to do. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about this game. All right, just a little bit. BP said, start me over Abram in the red zone. I'm just as good as guessing and getting embarrassed. I want to talk a little bit about some of our defensive players, specifically Jonathan Abram. You know, a lot of people have been killing Jonathan Abram the past couple of weeks. I know he allowed a touchdown to Evan Ingram. He allowed a touchdown to the Chiefs running back. Both guys caught the ball over Jonathan Abram. I know some people are going to blame Jonathan Abram for the touchdown pass that Jamar Chase had. I believe it was the touchdown pass in which, when it was 16-13, they scored. But I don't know if all those touchdowns are just Jonathan Abram's fault, right? Especially the touchdown pass today. I believe Brandon Faison was the third of the field, right? So I believe he was just as equally as responsible for the touchdown as was Jonathan Abram. Jonathan Abram also isn't a coverage football player. We don't have, we don't need every guy on the defense to either be coverage and, linebackers or guys that can stop the run, but they have to be able to cover. Like, we don't play that type of defense. We have Denzel Perryman, who's a run defender. He's an enforcer in the middle of the field. He stops every single run. He had 12 tackles. He leads the league in tackles for a reason. He's the guy to make sure when it's 3rd and 6 and they run a screen, he's the guy to go and stop that screen before it gets a first down. He's an enforcer. That's what Denzel Perryman's role is within this defense. Jonathan Abram's role is not to cover. Jonathan Abram's role is to really contain the quarterback. It's to play the curl flats a little bit. But his role is to be an enforcer. And that's what he has done for the Raiders. Now, does he allow catches? Absolutely. Is he good in coverage? Not really. But Jonathan Abram's role is not to be a coverage safety. That's not what we brought him in for. We have guys like Corey Littleton, all of our corners and safeties outside of Abram. Those guys are brought in to cover, right? And that's those guys' responsibilities. But then we have other guys like Corey Littleton, who is also there to cover and maybe not be as good stopping the run, right? So Gus Bradley runs a different type of defense. He doesn't just run the typical everyone needs to do everything, because he runs a cover 3, which means guys are going to be put in specific situations, specific spots every single down. Another thing that I think the Raiders did pretty good of today was getting after the quarterback. 13 points going into the fourth quarter for the Bengals. Sometimes going into the fourth quarter, teams have 30 points. Sometimes teams have 25 points. I know that's not the Raiders, but other teams have done that in the past. 30-plus points going into the fourth quarter. The Bengals had 13 going into the fourth quarter. The Raiders defense did a great job. And today wasn't the only time they did a great job. The Raiders defense has kept them into every single game this year, minus the Chiefs game. That was the only game which they did a terrible job. But every other game, the Raiders have been, anywhere from the 10th best to the 18th best defense. That's average. That's what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted an average defense, and that's what we built for Derek Carr and the Raiders offense. And we're still not able to get it done. The Raiders are still not able to get it done, even with an average defense. But the Raiders got to fix it, man. They got to fix it. They got to figure it out. And I don't think they're too far off. The season's not over. I know it looks terrible right now, but it is not over. The Raiders can still bounce back, but they definitely have to really figure it out, because going forward, our schedule gets tougher and tougher and tougher. We literally may only win 5 or 6 games this year if we continue to play like the way we just played. Honestly, we may not win another game. If we score 13 points or 15 points or 16 points, we're not winning another game. If the Raiders want to continue to win, the Raiders want to have some success, that too, we got to carry it into next season. You got to score points on the offense side of the ball. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up button, man. I really appreciate every single one of you guys that tuned in. Again, you guys know, just had a baby. I'm super excited for that, to see, how that goes. But I will still be putting out content. There is a time every season so far. This is my 4th year covering the Raiders, maybe 5th year. Every year there comes a time when the Raiders really start to struggle, and it gets really difficult to make content. But I will continue to do it because, I represent this brand right here. I represent it. I know you guys that are here, the 410 of you guys that are here, I know you guys represent that brand as well. We're Raiders fans first. We represent the silver and black. If that's Derek Carr, we'll support him. But if it isn't, we'll support whoever else is there. Right? I want to see the best from this team, this roster, this coaching staff, this GM. I want to see the best. And if these guys can't do it, I'm going to call for the Raiders to move on. I'm going to call for the next regime because I don't want to be 60 years old. I'll be 60 in 32 years. I don't want to be 60 and the Raiders have yet to win a Super Bowl. It's bad enough being a Kings fan because we're never going to win. But the Raiders have the opportunity to win, man. And I don't want to, continue this trend. I've been watching football since I was like 10, right? I've been a fan of the Raiders since I was young, and I don't want to continue watching them lose. At a certain point, they got to win. Just win, baby. That's the motto. That's what we were told, and I want the Raiders to get back to that. And I think they can, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you guys are not subscribers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Derek Carr, Mariota, how do we fix things up? I'll see you guys next time with another video.